I always dreamed of being the perfect mother. But when my son was born, love turned into a cold void. Soon I realized I was broken, and the only way to save him was to disappear forever.
I always dreamed of a family, the kind you see in advertisements. A loving husband, a cozy house with a white picket fence, and a child's laughter flooding every room with sunlight. My pregnancy was exactly like that. Perfect. My husband, Mark, carried me in his arms, brushed every speck of dust off me, and listened with delight to our unborn son moving in my belly. We chose the crib together, picked out tiny socks, and pasted stickers of funny animals on the nursery walls. I read every book about motherhood, attended prenatal classes, and was 100% sure I was ready. I would be the best mother in the world. Michael's birth was the happiest moment of my life. When they placed that tiny, warm, crying bundle on my chest, I wept. Not from the pain I had endured for so many hours, but from tenderness. Here he is, the meaning of my existence. This is why I live. Mark stood beside me, tears streaming down his face, whispering that he loved us more than life itself. Those first days felt like a fairy tale. Guests, flowers, gifts, admiring glances at our perfect son. I felt like an all-powerful goddess who had created a new life. And then the fairy tale ended. I can't pinpoint the exact day it happened. One morning, I simply woke up and the world had turned gray. Not bad, not terrible, but gray, tasteless. Michael cried in his crib, and instead of the usual tenderness I'd felt, I experienced something else. Irritation. Cold, sticky irritation. I picked him up, began to feed him, but I did it mechanically, like a robot. The ocean of love that had raged in my chest just yesterday turned into a dried-up swamp. I looked at my son and saw a stranger. A tiny, demanding creature that had stolen my sleep, my freedom, and me. At first, I pushed these thoughts away. "You're just tired," I told myself. "All mothers don't sleep at night. It's normal." Mark said the same thing. He came home from work, kissed me, took Michael in his arms, and smiled as he asked, "So, how are my loves?" And I forced a smile onto my face and answered, "Everything's fine, honey." A lie. Nothing was fine. The sleepless nights became torture. My son's cries, which once made me want to comfort him, now sounded like a siren drilling into my brain. I began to fear him, afraid to be alone with him. The worst were the intrusive thoughts. They came suddenly, like black lightning piercing my consciousness. I'm standing at the changing table, and a voice in my head whispers, "What if you drop him right now?" I'm carrying him to bathe, and my brain conjures an image of him slipping from my wet hands. I'm cutting vegetables in the kitchen, and the knife blade suddenly looks foreign, dangerous. A picture flashes in my head that I can't describe. It was too terrifying. I would recoil in horror from these thoughts, lock myself in the bathroom, and sob, stuffing a towel in my mouth so no one would hear. Who am I? What kind of monster am I? How can I think such things? I love him. Or, do I not anymore? The emptiness inside me spread, consuming every bright feeling. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. Instead of a glowing young mother, a gaunt woman with dead eyes and dark circles under them stared back at me. I tried talking to Mark about it, but he didn't understand. Quote 5. His words, meant to comfort, wounded me even more. He didn't see that I was drowning. To him, I was just a tired wife, but I was on the edge of an abyss. One day, his mother, my mother-in-law, came to visit. She walked through the apartment, clicking her tongue, offering advice. "Your little Michael seems pale. Are you feeding him well?" "And you look so gray." You need to take care of yourself. Your husband is a young man, after all. I nodded silently, clenching my fists. And when she took Michael in her arms and said, "Come here to Grandma. Your mom doesn't seem quite right," something inside me snapped. I grabbed my coat and ran out of the apartment. I just ran, eyes forward, across wet asphalt, gasping through tears in the freezing wind. I didn't want to come back. Never. I did return that evening. Mark was furious. We fought hard. He shouted that I was irresponsible, that I'd frightened him and his mother. I screamed back something incoherent, that he didn't understand me, that I couldn't take it anymore. After that, I completely shut down. I became a perfect robot mother. The apartment gleamed. Food was prepared perfectly. The child was fed and clean. I smiled when I needed to. Mark sighed with relief. He thought the crisis had passed, that his old Sarah had returned. He didn't see that only a shell of the old me remained, with a burned-out wasteland inside. I became a master of disguise. I laughed at his jokes, discussed his work with him, asked about his day. But the moment he fell asleep, I would lie with open eyes, listening to the silence and fighting against the emptiness that threatened to swallow me whole. My son grew. He began to smile, and that toothless grin that should have melted my heart only caused dull pain. Mark would coo, quote 9, and I smiled back while thinking, quote 10. He began to babble, that soft cooing that made other mothers' eyes well up with happy tears. And for me, it was just sound. Just a sound, like the ticking of a clock or the noise of water in pipes. I held him, rocked him, sang lullabies whose words I had memorized by heart. But I felt nothing. No warmth, no connection. Only the weight of a small body in my arms and the cold horror of my own indifference. My friends called, inviting me to walk with our strollers. I'd go out, maintain small talk about feeding and colic, nod, agree. Quote 11, one said. I shrugged. Calm. Yes, he was calm. Maybe he felt that he couldn't expect any living reaction from me and simply accepted it? That thought hit me like a punch. I looked at other mothers, exhausted, disheveled, but alive. Their eyes held love, tenderness, sometimes frustration and irritation. But these were real feelings. My eyes, it seemed to me, reflected only gray clouds. One evening, Mark came home from work, unusually happy. I got a promotion, he announced from the doorway, waving a bottle of champagne. I'm now head of the department. Can you imagine? I congratulated him. We sat down to dinner. He enthusiastically told me about new opportunities, about how things would change for us now. And then he said a phrase that became my sentence. I'm so glad everything has worked out for you. You're handling everything so well right now. I can peacefully build my career knowing that I have a reliable support system at home. Reliable support system. That night I didn't sleep at all. His words spun in my head. He didn't see me. He saw a convenient function, a perfect picture that I had worked so hard to create. And the real me was dying inside that picture. And in that ringing nighttime silence, under my son's steady breathing, a new thought came to me. It wasn't frightening and intrusive like before. It was quiet, clear, and terrifyingly logical. I am a mistake. I am a broken cog in this perfect family machine. I am a threat to my own child because a mother who feels nothing can't give him the most important thing, love. And if I want to save him, I have to disappear. Give him a chance at a real mother, at a mother who can love him the way his father loves him. This thought no longer frightened me. It brought a strange, twisted relief. I made my decision. The next day, I was especially tender with Michael. I held him for a long time, breathing in his milky scent, trying to memorize every detail of his face. I kissed his plump cheeks and soft hair, and for the first time in months, tears ran down my face. But they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of goodbye. That evening, after putting him to bed, I opened my laptop with trembling hands. I bought a one-way train ticket to a small town on the other side of the country where no one knows me. Then I took out a sheet of paper and began writing a goodbye letter to Mark. I wrote that I love him very much, but I'm broken and beyond repair, that this would be better for everyone. I placed the letter on his pillow next to my wedding ring. Then, quietly, so as not to wake my son, I took out the bag I had prepared in advance. Passport, some money, a few clothes, nothing extra. I approached the door and looked back. Silence. In the nursery sleeps my boy, to whom I couldn't be a mother. In the next room, my husband, who never understood that his wife had long since died. I put my hand on the doorknob, turned it, and silently stepped onto the stairway landing, carefully closing the door behind me. Down the stairs, away from this life. But just as I was leaving the building, my phone rang loudly in the night. On the screen, Mom. I froze, gripping the cold handle of the building's entrance door. A call from my mother at this hour. It wasn't coincidence. My hands shook as I answered. Sweetheart, her voice was anxious. I'm sorry it's so late. I had a terrible dream about you. My heart sank. Are you all right? And then I broke. Standing on the threshold of my destroyed life under the dull glow of a street lamp, I sobbed. Not quietly, like in the bathroom, but out loud, with my whole body shaking. I told her everything. About the emptiness, the thoughts, the grayness, about being a bad mother, about the train ticket and the goodbye letter. I poured out all the horror I'd accumulated over months. My mother listened without interrupting. And then she said quietly, but firmly, quote, 18. She arrived within half an hour, taking a taxi. She got out, came to me, silently embraced me, and just stroked my head while I cried on her shoulder. She didn't scold, didn't judge, didn't tell me I was making it all up. She was simply there. This isn't you, my dear, she said, once I'd calmed down a bit. Quote 20. That night, we went back upstairs to the apartment. Mark woke to the noise and, seeing me with my mother and my suitcase by the door, understood everything. I saw real fear on his face for the first time. He read the letter. While my mother rocked the now awake Michael, Mark and I talked for a long time. I spoke, and he listened, carefully, without interrupting. And his eyes showed not irritation, but genuine fear and guilt. He admitted that he'd seen something was wrong with me but was afraid of it, attributed it to exhaustion because he didn't know what to do. He asked for forgiveness for being blind and deaf. It was the hardest and most important conversation of our lives. My mother stayed with us for several weeks. She took on much of Michael's care, giving me a chance to simply sleep, to be alone, to recover. The very next day, she made an appointment for me with a psychotherapist. I resisted at first, ashamed, but the first conversation with the doctor brought enormous relief. Hearing from a specialist that I wasn't a monster, wasn't crazy, but a sick person who needed help was essential for my survival. The doctor explained my condition to Mark as well. He began reading about it, asking questions, becoming my ally in this fight. I was prescribed therapy and antidepressants. The path to recovery wasn't quick. There were setbacks, days when the grayness returned and it seemed nothing would help. But there were people around me who believed in me. My mother, who called every day. Mark, who learned to see when I was struggling and simply held me, saying, quote, 21. He took on nighttime feedings, walked with Michael so I could go to therapy or just lie in silence. And gradually, step by step, Color began returning to my world. One morning I woke to Michael cooing. I approached his crib, and when he saw me, he spread into that wide, toothless smile. And I felt it. Real, living warmth that flooded my chest. I picked him up, held him close, and for the first time in many months, I cried tears of pure joy. My son, my beloved, my own son. The ocean of love hadn't dried up. It had simply been buried under thick layers of pain, fear, and exhaustion. Michael is 3 now. He's a cheerful, loud, and incredibly loved little boy. I still take supportive therapy, and I'm not ashamed of it. That night became a turning point for me, but not toward destruction, toward healing. I understood several important things. First, asking for help isn't weakness, it's strength, it's wisdom. Second, perfect mothers don't exist. What exist are real women with their own fears, doubts, tears, and hopes. And that's okay. It's even beautiful because it's honest. My postpartum depression nearly destroyed my life, but it taught me the most important lesson: to value myself, to listen to myself, and to know that even from the darkest night, dawn always comes. Especially when someone is willing to hold your hand while you wait for it. I'll share the signs of postpartum depression because I know there are thousands of women suffering right now who don't understand what's happening to them. A constant sense of emptiness and sadness, even when life looks good. Inability to feel joy, even when something good happens. Intrusive, frightening thoughts about harm. Feeling disconnected from your child. Coldness toward them. Insomnia, even when you have the chance to sleep. Feelings of guilt, shame, and inadequacy. Fear of being alone with your child. Thoughts that it would be better to disappear, that everyone would be better off without you. If you recognize yourself or someone close to you in this, please tell someone. Tell your mother. Tell your husband. Call a doctor. Write to a friend. Here's what's important to remember. It's not your fault. You're not alone. It's treatable. And you deserve help. My mother saved my life by calling at the right moment. But before that, there were many dark days. And I want you to know that you can ask for help yourself. You don't need to wait for your mother to call. You don't need to get to the point of packing a bag and leaving. Speak about it. Today. Right now. Postpartum depression nearly destroyed my life. But paradoxically, it also taught me the most important thing. It taught me to value myself. It taught me to listen to myself. It taught me that even from the darkest night, dawn always breaks. Especially if there are people beside you willing to hold your hand while you wait for that dawn. If your emotions are waves in an ocean, then depression is a tsunami. But waves pass, and the water becomes calm again. Thank you for listening to my story. If it helped you, please like this video. Write your story in the comments, or just let me know what helped you. And if you're in pain right now, in emptiness, in cold, please know you're not alone, and it's not forever. Call your mother, call your husband, call a doctor, or just call me. Through these videos, I'm beside you. You're stronger than you think. You're more capable than you think, and you deserve happiness.